Hello and Assalamu alaikum dear students. Welcome to the first week of your online video lectures. I hope you all are excited and are looking forward to this mode of learning. I am Fatma, your English teacher, and today I'm going to discuss skill set 5 from your book Oxford English Skills for Class First Year. If you do not have your books with you right now, I'd strongly suggest you to get one as I shall be reading the extract from the book in this video. So without further ado, let us start today's class. Dear students, the theme of skill set 5 is role models. We all have some people in our lives who we look up to for inspiration and motivation. This skill set is going to highlight the idea of our inspirations. The topic that has been discussed in this skill set is courage and leadership, as the author tells you about an exciting episode from Dr. Shah's life, a turning point that gives her courage and makes her realize her true potential as a strong and firm leader. Interestingly, the text type of this extract is autobiography. An autobiography is author's personal account of her life events. The extract is taken from the book titled Sunshine and Shadows, the Autobiography of Dr. Fatma Shah, which has been translated, edited, and is a labor of love by her daughter Rehana A. Hassan. Before we go ahead and read the extract, let me give you a brief introduction of Dr. Fatma Shah. Dr. Fatma Shah, who rendered many services for the handicapped in spite of her being blind, was born in 1914. She received the gold medal in the high school examination from Aligarh University. She joined a medical college in Delhi and received the McDonald Scholarship of Merit. Dr. Shah, who was one of the founding members of the All Pakistan Women's Association, received an MBE for her social services on the occasion of the coronation of Queen Elizabeth II. She also founded the Pakistan Association of the Blind in 1960, which developed into a national self-help movement. She remained its president for 25 years, retiring in 1984. Upon her return, Dr. Shah forced the government to remove the health clause, because of which perfectly healthy, intelligent, and qualified people were being deprived of jobs. She also convinced the government to allow a 50% concession on both domestic and international routes on PIA for all blind persons. Dr. Shah organized the Disabled People's Federation of Pakistan to serve as a national affiliate to the Disabled People's International, of which she was a World Council member. She played a significant role in the establishment of a global body called the World Blind Union, and also became a member of the Federal Council National Parliament. Among the various awards bestowed upon her was the Tamgha-e-Imtiyaz, which was conferred upon her by Government of Pakistan. Dr. Shah wrote a book titled Disability, Self-Help and Social Change, which was sent to all the libraries of the world. Dr. Shah has represented Pakistan Association of the Blind in many international conferences to uplift the dignity of blind at global level. She was retired at her own will from the office of the presidentship of the association in 1984 after rendering 25 years dedicated and meritorious services. Now, you must be thinking that if somebody had so much potential, if she worked so hard and was so courageous, was she like this since the beginning? No. In today's extract, we are going to read about the moment which made her realize that she is not supposed to be confined in the four walls of a room. She is not supposed to live her life in depression and anxiety, but she has a great responsibility on her shoulders. Let us see how did this happen. Let us read about the inspiration of Dr. Fatma Shah. Please come to page number 79 of your skill set. Here is a little introduction of Dr. Fatma Shah. I would like to read it from here again. Dr. Fatma Shah grew up in Aligarh and earned a degree in medicine from Lady Hardinge Medical College in New Delhi. In 1947, she migrated to Pakistan and became a pioneer social worker with All Pakistan Women's Association, also called APWA. After losing her sight, she founded the Pakistan Association of the Blind and served as its president for 25 years. She also helped to set up and then head the International Federation of the Blind, ultimately expanding her horizons to encompass similar pioneering work for people with all kinds of disabilities the world over. Sunshine and Shadows, from which the following passage is extracted, is Dr. Fatma Shah's autobiography. Here are some keywords. Let us now read the passage. As the months passed by and there was no improvement in my vision, I began to consider the possibility that my sight was gone forever. Vision in my left eye could not be restored by Dr. Holland's treatment. My right eye was already gone. Perhaps I would be completely blind. Wave upon wave of terror broke upon me, battering the bastions of my courage. All my inner resources of strength and fortitude crumbled against the onslaught. I could not bring myself to face the prospect of living the rest of my life in darkness and allowed myself to be engulfed by deep despair. Withdrawing into myself, oblivious of my surroundings, I struggled to come to grips with the ordeal which would now be my life's companion and took to isolating myself in my room, reluctant to meet any but my closest relations and a few friends. Dear students, in these first two paragraphs, we see that Dr. Fatma Shah has realized that the vision in her left eye has gone completely and that her right eye was already gone, which means she has started to consider a life of being blind forever. So she says that one by one, all these realizations were making me worried, and that I was so depressed that I was engulfed by deep despair. And she says that I kept on thinking, how am I going to live such a life where I wouldn't know what is happening around me? And so she says, I took to isolating myself in room, which means that she sort of locked herself in the room and wanted to spend most of the time alone. And she was reluctant to meet anybody. She did not like to meet anyone but some of her closest relations and only a few friends. So we see that this is a very hard time in Dr. Fatma Shah's life. Now, coming to the third paragraph, I had not yet realized it, but a door had already swung silently open, which would soon admit a ray of light into the darkness that surrounded me. This is a very beautiful paragraph, although it's only of one sentence, but it is so beautifully written by her. She says that she had not yet realized it, but a door had already opened for her. And this door means literally, that means the door of her room, and metaphorically or figuratively, where she means that it was an opportunity for her which would soon change her life from darkness to light, which would soon admit a ray of light into the darkness that surrounded her. Now you see, a blind person cannot see anything, so it's always dark around them. When Dr. Fatma Shah says that there was something that was going to admit a ray of life in her darkness, definitely it is going to be something worth it. It was something very big that was going to happen that would completely transform her life and her perspective towards her life. Let us see what that is. Moving on to the next paragraph and next page. It was November 1959 and I was as usual, sitting alone in my room, brooding on my situation, when there was a knock at the door. This is what happens. This is how the door is going to swing open. Let us see. This is November 1959, and somebody has knocked her door. I was told that a lady had come to see me. I was surprised because, apart from close friends and relations, very few people came to visit me now. Then I heard someone laugh, and a voice said cheerfully, "Hello, I'm Dr. Isabella Grant. Are you Dr. Fatma Shah?" "Yes," I acknowledged. Dr. Grant told me that she was an American and that she was blind. She was on a tour of the world and had just been to 25 countries in Africa and Latin America. Now she was beginning her tour of Asia, starting with Pakistan. "I'm staying at the Palace Hotel," she continued, "and have just delivered a lecture to the students at the Government Girls' College on Frere Road." I recognized the name. It was Gala's college, and Zeenat Rashid Ahmed was the principal. "Your friend, the principal, told me all about you," said Dr. Grant. "She said that you have a degree in medicine, that you are a well-known social worker, and that you have recently become blind. She also told me that you are in a state of deep depression, overwhelmed by despair. I've been looking for someone just like you. That's why I've had Sheila Bhanot bring me straight to you." "Are you really on a world tour?" I asked. "Yes," she answered. "I still have a long way to go. I have to visit India, East Pakistan, and the Far East after West Pakistan." "Who are you traveling with?" I asked. "With Oscar," she answered. "Is Oscar here with you?" I asked, wondering whether Oscar was a man or a dog. "Of course," she answered cheerfully. "Here, meet Oscar." And with that, she put a cane into my hand. Oscar is what I call my white cane, which goes everywhere with me. "How old are you?" I asked after I had digested this silence. 60, she told me. "I'm retired now. I used to be a teacher." It was at this moment that something stirred within me. I was then 45 years old, and I thought to myself, here is an old lady of 60, totally blind, who is going around the world absolutely alone, with nothing but a cane for support. She is serene, satisfied, and cheerful. She has visited all kinds of institutions in a land in which she is a complete stranger, and has managed to arrive at my doorstep traveling from her hotel in a rickshaw. So why, at my age, am I wasting my life sitting inside a closed room? So dear students, this is the moment that changes everything for Dr. Fatma Shah. She says, a very cheerful and serene lady comes to her and meets her and tells her that she knows about Dr. Shah, and that one of her friends had told her how Dr. Shah was a very well-known social worker, and that she had recently become blind, and that she was in depression and she was alone and did not want to meet people. So she comes to her and tells her about her own journey, and very politely, in a very beautiful and subtle way, tells her that it is possible, even for a blind, even for an old lady. And so beautifully she tells her about Oscar. Now you might be wondering who Oscar is. Well, Oscar is none other than her white cane that blind people use for support. So that was the moment that Dr. Fatma Shah realized that look at this beautiful lady, look at her serenity, look at her satisfaction, and look at how cheerful she is and how confidently she's doing what she loves to do. And this is me at at this age, and I'm wasting my life sitting inside a closed room only because I have become blind. So let's see what happens then. As you can see that this is where we find inspiration in Dr. Fatma Shah's life. This is how Dr. Isabella inspired Dr. Fatma Shah. Coming to the next page, Dr. Grant was still speaking. I've been visiting all kinds of institutions of the blind, she was saying. I've also visited the beggars' colony and have talked to some of its inhabitants. The condition of the blind in your country is alarming, to say the least. All the welfare work being done for them is on the basis of charity. This was the moment of my awakening, as though from a long, deadening sleep. Strange new thoughts were being born in my mind. You've been an active social worker, Dr. Grant continued. Now you know what it's like to be blind as well. You are therefore the best person to provide leadership to the blind in your country. It's true that I've done a lot of social work, I said, but I've never done any work for the blind or the disabled. And I have no experience. You can do it, she said firmly. You need to form an association of the blind in this country which will work on the basis of self-help rather than accept handouts. From such a platform, you can work towards your own welfare and progress without having to depend on charity. Such an organization already exists in the States and is doing marvelous work. I thought about it for a while and heard the whisper of hope as courage seeped slowly back into my veins. I'm going to be Pakistan a while longer, Dr. Grant was saying. Why don't you call a meeting of the blind while I'm still here? Then I can help you establish an association. Suddenly I knew that I could do it and that I would do it. A streak of light had appeared at last in the darkness which enshrouded my being, and I was filled with a new resolve. For the first time in my life, I had a sense of firm purpose, the achievement of a specific and worthwhile goal. So this is the moment, dear students, where Dr. Fatma Shah sort of decides it for herself that she would do it and that she could do it. So with inspiration and motivation from Dr. Isabella Grant, Dr. Fatma Shah agrees to the idea of establishing an association for the blind in the country, as the condition of the blind was really bad, and so she says that I am going to do this. And this line number 71, a streak of light had appeared at last in the darkness which enshrouded my being. Again, referring back to the paragraph that I was talking about earlier, the paragraph with one sentence only, where she says that a door had already opened and a ray of light would admit into the darkness that surrounded her. This is where she talks about that light and says that this is how a light had entered in the darkness that had enshrouded her being, and that she was now filled with a new purpose and a new goal, and she knew that she is going to do it. On 4th January 1960, following Dr. Grant's instructions, I called a meeting in the very room in which I had till then incarcerated myself. She says, the very room where I had sort of locked myself, where I was sitting alone, that's where I called the very meeting, or the very first meeting of the blind. And the date was 4th January 1960. Only 7 or 8 people attended, some students from a school for the blind and some blind beggars. Except for myself, none of those present had either a house to his name, transport, or a telephone, all of which were required for an office bearer to fulfill the responsibilities assigned to him. Nor did any of us possess a bank balance. What we did have was the determination to establish a platform on the basis of self-help from which blind people could launch a struggle to achieve their basic right and carve for themselves an equitable, dignified, and useful role in the society. So, Dr. Grant tells that only 7 or 8 people attended the very first meeting. Some of them were students from the School for the Blind and some were blind beggars, but none of them, except Dr. Fatma Shah herself, none of them had a house or a transport or a telephone or any money. So they did not have anything at all. But what they did have was the determination to establish this platform which would then help other blind people, and that could launch a struggle to achieve their basic right. This is how the Pakistan Association for the Blind the idea was executed. So Dr. Grant and I became life members of the Floodling organization, and the rest became members. That was how the Pakistan Association of the Blind came into being. So Dr. Grant and Dr. Shah were lifelong members of this organization, and this is how the Pakistan Association of the Blind came into being. This is adapted from Sunshine and Shadows, the autobiography of Dr. Fatma Shah. That's the name of the book that I've already told you. Now, moving on to some question answers. So, dear students, as you know that we read for, when we read a skill set, when we read any text from our book, we try to discuss it and we try to find answers for it. So here we see reading for the main idea, and the second exercise is reading for details. When we talk about reading for main idea, there are some of the questions. First is, what did Dr. Fatma Shah achieve in her personal life? I have already given you a detailed introduction of Dr. Fatma Shah, and you have also read a little introduction in the textbook. So I'm sure that you can answer this question in detail, where you will talk about her achievements in her personal life, and if there are if you want to look for the answers on internet, you can also browse and you can also Google her name and see her personal achievements, and then you can frame your answer based on the knowledge that you get from other resources as well as from this video. Second question is, who inspired her? Well, it's very evident, and we all know, as we read in her autobiography in the extract in the passage, that Dr. Isabella Grant inspired her. I would like you to write a detailed answer of how did she inspire her, and how did she become a role model for Dr. Fatma Shah. I'm sure that you can find and write a very good answer to this question, since we have discussed this in detail right now. Next question is, what work of national significance did she pioneer? Pioneer means found, something that you start or begin. So what work of national significance did she pioneer? We talked about this in detail. That's what the text was about. I'm sure that this question will not be difficult for you to attempt, and I think it's very easy now for you to answer all these questions. Please keep your answers brief. I would like you to write your answers and sort of share your answers with each other. Definitely you will learn from each other's answers. You can also share your answers in the comments of this video. I will be looking at your comments and I will try to contact with you over there as well. So reading for details, these are true and false. Let's see. Before she met Dr. Grant, Dr. Shah liked to be left alone. Yes, that is true. When she first met Dr. Grant, Dr. Shah was very young. Well, she was not very young, so I would leave it up to you to answer this question. You go back to the text and see what was her age and when did she meet Isabella Grant, and then you can answer this. Dr. Grant was an old friend of Dr. Shah. Well, let's see, what answer do you have? Dr. Grant had traveled widely. Oscar was a dog. A PAB started with a large membership. All these things have been discussed, so please write your answers in the comment box, or you can write your answers in your notebooks, and then you can share those pictures as well in the comments. What was the condition of the blind in Pakistan at that time? As you read in the paragraph where she talks about only 7 or 8 people attended that first meeting and what was the condition of those people. I'm sure from there you can understand, and also from what Dr. Isabella Grant talks in her dialogues with Dr. Fatma Shah, you will come to know about the conditions of the blind. So please write that answer. And how does the first meeting of the Association of the Blind reflect that condition? So both these questions are interlinked. In the first one you will tell us what the condition was, and in the second one you will tell us how the first meeting reflects those conditions. I'm sure that you can write a very good answer to this. So dear students, now you have some questions for inference and interpretation. I would like you to contrast the state of mind that Dr. Shah was in before and after meeting Dr. Grant. This is the most important discussion that I would like to have with you. Maybe after reading your answers, I would like to make a follow-up video and talk to you about what was her condition before and after meeting Dr. Grant. We have already discussed this in the video earlier, where we talk about how she was in a lot of depression and how she had sort of confined herself in a room and she was not meeting many people, and then she meets Dr. Grant and she finds a new hope and a new purpose and a new goal in her life. So I would like you to write this answer in your own words and try to express what you have understood from it and what do you infer and interpret from whatever discussion we have done so far. Now, how did Dr. Grant bring about the change in Dr. Shah? This is all about the inspiration. So I would like you to write this answer and tell us about how Dr. Shah how Dr. Grant inspired Dr. Shah. Please note how the text works. I've already talked about this. There are 3 turning points in Dr. Shah's life and they are clearly indicated in the extract. So go ahead, read the text once again, and also I would like you to please use dictionaries for any difficult or new words that you come across. If you have any questions, please write to me or write to the English faculty team, comment on this video, share it with your friends, and I'm sure that it's going to be amazing. Any questions are welcome. I would like to read your questions and comments and then make a follow-up video on the same. Thank you very much. Allah Hafiz.